Okay, the time is 9:15 a.m. and we'll convene the meeting of the Seward County Board of Commissioners. The Open Meetings Act is posted on the walls required and copies are available upon request. Please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please make sure your phones are silenced, and Brandon, can you call the roll?
Hein,
Here.
Zabraki,
Here.
McCarrick,
Here.
Amick.
Here. Takes us to item number 3, which is approving minutes of July 7th, 2026. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of July 7, 2026.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Zabraki,
Yes.
McCarrick,
Yes.
Hein,
Yes.
Amick.
That's 4-0 opposed to approving minutes of July 7th, 2026. Item number 4 is claims through July 3rd, 2026. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll take a motion.
Move to approve claims through July 3rd, 2026.
Second.
Please call the roll.
McCarrick,
Yes.
Zabraki,
Yes.
Hein,
Yes.
Amick.
Yes. 4-0 against approving claims through July 3rd, 2026. Item number 5 is our consent agenda, which consists of a surplus property request for the roads department, accepting the county treasurer's submission of the semi-annual report for publication and the uncollected taxes for the last 3 years. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Please call the roll.
Zabraki,
Yes.
Hein,
Yes.
McCarrick,
Yes.
Amick.
Yes. 4-0 opposed to approving the consent agenda. Item number 6, is anyone from the public here to speak? Anyone from the public? Any organizations? Okay, no organizations. Any officials? All right, seeing no officials, we'll go to item number 7, which is commissioner reports. And Scott, we'll start with you this week.
Started the week after our last meeting with Village of Garland. Regular meeting on July 7th, and just going through some things that they're dealing with. They're still working through planning issues and zoning law or zoning regulations, and they've been kind of looking at our zoning regulations online, and they're going to try to see if some of that fits. I said, well, none of that's been approved. And so they're aware of that. Then they had some other things as far as maintenance. And one of the big things that the villages are dealing with is insurance right now. Because insurance is really, really getting them. And that's the same thing with B. I was at B's meeting also, and that was one of the topics. B's also looking for another board member. One resigned. I don't know what the particulars were, but they had one board member resign. And then they were also talking about, at B, they're talking about the ballroom and how they're getting it remodeled and getting everything finished in it. So that's about all I had on that. And we had a meeting with, oh goodness,
Upper Big Blue and Lower Platte South.
Upper Big Blue, Lower Platte South. Yep. And talked a lot about how could we have a county-wide water assessment or a water study. I think there was good conversation there that we need to come back as far as we're going to have John with,
John Moore with Spiros.
yeah, it used to be LRE, correct? No, it's Spiros, yeah. So I asked, and John's gonna put together some things for Lower Platte South and Big Blue, Upper Big Blue, to see if there's any matching funds or anything like that would be able to help us out to do a countywide water study. And one of the things that I pointed out is, one of the questions was asked, well, why do we need to do a countywide? If the Water Conservation District is just in eastern Seward County. And I kind of pointed out all the things that are going on in a lot of the counties in state of Nebraska and data centers. And so that I think would be a good thing for us to move forward on as far as getting a water study. That way we have a little bit better idea where we're at um, when and if data centers come to Seward County. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll just start there. You look confused. So I'm just going to
Not
start with
not
that
confused.
meeting.
I have questions.
Yeah, I will start with that meeting
I
and
always
then
do.
hopefully we can
Yeah.
answer the question. So I had actually asked for this meeting. So if you remember previously, I asked John Moore to come to the Planning Commission to just talk a little bit about the data and the interpretation of the data. John had heard about the data center moratorium and knew that we were going to be doing research. And so he asked me what we were going to do as far as water is concerned. And I said, well, I'm assuming we'll have to work with the NRDs. So we discussed what a potential water study could look like for the whole county. So to piggyback off of what he was saying, the reason for the whole county is, I mean, a data center could go anywhere in the county, right? It could be a proposed site anywhere. So it doesn't make sense to exclude a portion of the county in understanding what the water looks like. As the Ogallala meets the Dakota, it's really varied in depth and everything else. And as you know, there's people who have wells that are 100 and some feet and people who have wells that are 400 and some feet. So it's not just along that line. I mean, I think people look at it like it's this hard line, and it's really not. So I think for any development, not just data centers, it would be helpful to know what our water situation actually looks like based on data that we're collecting today. And so there's several ways that that could be done. And so John kind of walked us through what, introduced everybody to the fact that this is something that we've requested and why we requested it. And then Lower Platte South, extremely interested, obviously. Lower Platte South already has a lot of data. They already have the AEM data. They already have a lot of test wells. And so this would be more appealing, I think, to Upper Big Blue to be able to have some more data sort of over in their area. They presented two ideas to us. One was like using what's already there, and one of them was essentially collecting more. And Scott and I both agreed that it would be in our benefit to sort of look at collecting everything that we actually need to make the correct assumptions about what the water looks like. So the next steps on that are, and he had talked about grants and other things. There are potentially some grants out there, although a lot of those grant programs have been ended. So Upper Big Blue and Lower Platte South do put money forward out of their budgets for these sort of studies, but they ask that those dollars be matched. So essentially, some of the things we talked about was, maybe it's a third, a third, a third. The county would pay for a third. We actually believe the city of Seward would be really interested in this with the development in rail campus and some future sort of planning. So Scott and I are going to be talking to Greg Butcher next week, and in that case, it would be sort of split quarter, quarter, quarter. Ultimately, the study is meant to give us a better look, not just for data centers, but for all development in general and in all parts of the county. So really looking forward to that. There is a cost associated with it, right? What did they say? It was about 100,000
Yeah, somewhere in there.
for the
You
amped
could
up
get
version.
a cheaper version, but with that, your
Mhm.
data is going to be limited also.
Right. So we will be putting something together with John, and then we will have him come in and sort of walk us through that. And he'll do the same thing for Upper Big Blue or Platte South. He did ask me if I would attend those meetings, so I'd be happy to attend those meetings as well with him. And then we'll loop Greg in on this in the city of Seward as well. Questions based on that?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, so I also attended a meeting with public transit. I was just sharing some data and having some conversations. Commissioner Zabraki was in on that meeting as well. I attended Milford City Council last week. They did a lot of the same things that we're doing this time of year, so it was not really much on that agenda. I did receive a couple calls about roads, was able to work with John on those. I've had, as you all know, SCCDP is going through transition, so I'm having a lot of SCCDP meetings, both in person and virtually. Last week we met in person with all of the staff, and then as an executive committee. Also had a Safe Streets and Roads for All meeting, so that's with the larger group. That includes the city of Milford, SCC, and the county. And that's just a progress meeting based on the actual project. Right now we're in what's called the base phase, so it's just sort of planning for demonstration activities. I did reach out to Tom, and I looped in Scott on the jail issue with the multi-factor authentication I'm told that it's supposed to be fixed this week, so if not, we're gonna have to come up with another plan just so everyone's prepared, and that's budget related. Um, did have some calls about the Permazyme and was able to connect them with John. I think we have a good plan for deployment moving forward. Met with Reagan and John regarding the budget, and I've had a couple other budget meetings, just people sort of reaching out. Had a follow-up meeting with JEO regarding safe streets and roads. Just wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page as far as the outcomes. And then also had a meeting with FWHA about the same thing, about sort of reimbursement and sort of what we can count for that in-kind match on that project. So busy week. That was it for me. Daryl?
I had a meeting with Councilwoman Colferman around some, I'll say, development issues, economic development issues, for lack of a better term. I did have a public transit reviews for 2 employees. Those are now all complete and have been turned into HR. Did have 1 public transit interview for the director position. And I have spent a little time with our county clerk to finalize the public transit budget. Did attend a NPATE board reception. NPATE has moved their offices from an older location near the Capitol to a fairly newly remodeled location not far from the Capitol. And then we had our NPATE board meeting the following day on Wednesday. I did finish up a part of the sheriff's inventory. I have accounted for the weapons at this point. I didn't realize that they not only had gun safes, but they had a nice room over in the evidence building where they do a variety of things with their weapons. I've never been in that place. So out to the end of this inventory, if things work well, I would like to put that on the agenda for next week and bring it forward for approval if that's what's required. Lastly, like all of you, I did say goodbye to Ken on Friday. That's it.
Okay. Reagan?
Last week I had a couple of meetings with HR just regarding updates within their department and things that are going on there, also in relationship to some budget items. I also sat in on the public transit interview last week with Daryl. I did also meet with Misty, John, and Trevor. One of the biggest issues was budget, making sure that everybody was on the same page. We also had some discussions related to Permazyme and how that is going to how it's going to work and potentially when they're going to be here. So the roads department is in the process of getting that scheduled. I believe for August 10th is the date that it's supposed to be started, and they'll do one section at a time. So, and I believe they're starting on 420th north of Highway 34 is the first site. I'm also continuing to check emails for aging services and checked in with aging partners to determine how busy they have been with assisting Seward County, which has been very limited. I've also been in contact with Brandy, and I've asked her if she's been sending budget sheets so I can kind of get a jump start on kind of reviewing budgets and the information that's being submitted. I'm also in the process of preparing for the aging services meeting on Thursday evening. So Allison did a lot of the preparation work for that. So I'm currently doing that work. We should have a quorum, so we should be able to meet on Thursday. On a very disappointing note, we did receive notification from Build, which was the grant that we had submitted for 420th Road that we did not receive funding. So we will be part of a debrief, which should be in August sometime. I did reach out to Sunflower, who were the grant writers that assisted us on that. They would like to sit in on that. I do not see an issue with that, having them sit in on the grant, because if it's something that comes available again, I would hope that Seward County would try to apply again, just to keep people in the loop. Congressman Flood's office has put forward our entire request. To our knowledge, that has not yet been cut, but it does have to clear Congress and the Senate before it goes to the president's desk. So there's still potential there, but we did not get the build grant. And there was only one county in Nebraska that got grant funding, and it was Gage County. So that's all I have. Just to piggyback off of that build grant, The amount of funding that we requested was
Minimal.
compared to what was awarded, which was 23.7 million.
Yep.
As we're looking forward to some of those, I think it would be in our best interest to look at a larger project. And I think the north-south roads off of the I-80 corridor and Highway 34 connector are a good start. And so I think we, as a board, need to be thinking about that before the next round, which is going to come up fast. So, all right.
They come up every March.
No, the timelines are different every year. I mean, it's just so random depending on when. Sometimes there's 2 cycles per year.
So will they actually notify
No,
government agency? You just gotta be on top.
yep, we're looking. We're
So,
watching.
and the biggest thing is, and I don't disagree with Misty, and we've talked about this before, and NDOT has had this conversation with us before in the past. The problem is, and you guys are gonna have, I will not be here, so you guys are going to have to work with the roads department and an engineering firm. You're gonna have to have some engineering plans if you want to encompass 154 into that, which 154 in and of itself is going to be a beast as far as engineering goes. So I think that those conversations should probably start now as to what that looks like if you want to go after funding for that.
So you can actually get funding for the engineering study as well.
It can be
Or does that come-
encompassed as part of the grant. So most of these grants are reimbursement based.
Okay.
And so, but you can't, they will not reimburse you for funds that have already been spent. So the county may have to, so say for instance, apply for some other grant to fund the engineering study,
Okay.
but for the grant itself, no, they will not, any funds incurred prior to grant submission will not be paid.
It's my understanding there's some really old engineering on some of that,
Yeah.
but it's irrelevant. I mean, I think you can do a couple things. You could ask for a engineer to give you like an estimate, but again, there's still a cost associated with that, and then go back and do harder engineering as part of the grant. But I would say initially there's going to be some upfront costs to that. I know that there's 3 projects that we're talking about regularly. It's 154th Matsky, and then potentially this bypass, and they're all going to require engineering. So those are costs associated that we're going to have to pay for eventually.
And 252nd north of 34 also. There's highly traveled.
I don't disagree, and I think that there's, we talk about some things in our comp plan and we've talked about it as far as the 1 and 6, but I think we have to check them off, right?
Mhm.
So we really have to check them off. With the connectors, I think that's a project in and of itself. I mean, it's hard. We're going to take any grant opportunity we can that makes sense to connect them. And I think if the opportunity comes up for 252nd where it makes sense, obviously we would take that.
So will Sunflower still be on, or was that just for that?
That was just
Just
for
for
that.
That's what
Mhm.
We can work with Department of Transportation. Actually, Gage County worked with Department of Transportation and another grant writer. Um, so it's something that we can look at moving forward, which we would have to. I don't think anybody would be in favor of continuing to shell out those kind of dollars.
You could add in Bluff Road east of the new bridge that they're gonna put in as another one of those connector roads if you're talking 252.
Mhm.
But those two, to my way of thinking, are something that you can do in collaboration with the city.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
I was gonna say that should be,
Yeah, I
looked
mean,
at.
there's more of a benefit to
Yeah.
them than us doing those, just like East Seward and even Waverly for that matter. The city benefited, I'll say a little more than we did on that.
right?
Okay. All right. So thank you, Reagan.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll go to our 9:30 timed item, which is hearing from the PACE and Region 5 on their annual updates.
Morning.
Yep.
Well, good morning. My name is Matt Kosick, and I'm the CEO of PACE. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our year and give you kind of an update on our operations. So what I handed out, so the first thing I handed out, the glossy sheet, so the glossy booklet. These are stories and milestones and celebrations from the folks that we support all throughout our service area. I can come and talk to you, but really the people that we support are the stars of the show. And so any opportunity that I get to share their milestones and share their celebrations, I'm certainly going to do. So you can take a look at that and see those. Overall, so APACE, we support 756 individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Southeast Nebraska. We do that with 770 or so employees and another 150 shared living providers. We are Nebraska's largest provider of IDD services. So we've maintained that for many years. We've actually been growing in the number of people that we support. So some good metrics that we have experienced over the past year. The printed sheet that's included in that gives a breakdown of our Seward County operation. And so we serve about 20 people here in Seward County. I'll point out that our relationship that we have with the individuals that we support is generally a lifelong relationship. The individuals that we support have a choice in who their provider can be. They can choose any one of the 180 providers that there are in the state, and so the fact that they choose us means a lot. And we will support them as long as they will have us, essentially. Here in Seward also, we're still operating out of the house that we have. We're still looking for the long-term location. We feel that we can do more services with the bigger location, but we're also kind of picky. We have some pretty specific needs with parking and accessibility. So as buildings come available, we'll certainly explore those here in the community to find that right fit. As part of my annual report, part of that is a budget request, which is zero. A couple of years back, we went away from county funding. We are still the only DD region in the state that does not take county funding from their counties. So we're just in a better financial position to be able to do that. But that, as a reminder, that was kind of a holdover from the ways of the past. When our organization was established, county funding was 50% of all the funding. It was the counties and the state that funded us, and now it's all primarily Medicaid. So 95% of our funding is Medicaid now. With that, with there being no funding, but with you working with us through our interlocal agreement, Daryl sitting on our board, it makes us a public entity. And that public nature instantly builds credibility, instantly builds trust. I mentioned that there's 180 providers in the state of Nebraska. People have a lot of choices as to who their provider can be. And so the fact that we are a public entity just helps us in so many ways with parents who are making that choice. I do want to thank Daryl. You have, since you've joined our board, you've hit the ground running. You've ran full speed. You've joined our executive committee. You've just been a great fit for our board. So thank you for all that you've done in the past 2 years. Talking a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about funding because recently the governor put forth a statement in which state agencies would be cut 5%. And so I want to talk a little bit about funding. Our rates that we have, so our rates, because they are Medicaid, they're set by state legislature. And so the most recent rate change that we had was July of 2024. So our rates have essentially been that same place or that same level since July of 2024. The following year, we had to cut about $3 million out of our operating budget to get through the budget process with the balanced budget. At that time we had lost some federal funding, some one-time funding, so that's why that amount was so high. And we do prioritize our staff and our benefits is primarily the biggest expenses that we have are our people. And so we always prioritize raises for individuals. And so that makes the expense cut a little bit higher for us because we want to prioritize that. This last budget process, we cut about 600,000. So it wasn't quite as extensive. Um, but still we had to forego and stop some things to just maintain a balanced budget. If our rates are cut, so the directive of the 5% for a pace that equates to about 2.8 million in our annual budget, so it would be a pretty devastating cut. And really, with those cuts that we've had in the past few years, like really what's left is benefits, wages, that sort of thing. We really have no other places to cut. So I bring this up not to say we need money or anything like that, but it's just what we're faced with. There will likely be some challenges in this current year into the next biennium process. We advocate heavily with our community leaders and state senators, and if anything, fighting to ensure that our rates stay the same is a win. So ultimately, that's kind of where we're at with that. The last piece I wanted to talk about is so the budget process or the budget situation for the states in the news now also is fraud and waste and abuse with Medicaid. There's been a national push from the federal government, and it's carried on down to state government as well. There's been other states where Medicaid fraud has been in the news, and so there's now a big push to really ensure that there's no fraud, no waste and abuse. Since you all oversee our organization, I wanted to just kind of give you the points on what we do. So first off, we have several layers and checkpoints in our processes to ensure that we're not billing incorrectly. We're not billing for something twice when that happens. We have several checkpoints in place to catch those types of things. But then beyond that, the waste and abuse part of it, there's a fairly hefty billing integrity process that we go through to ensure that everything is right. We'll forego payment if it's something where we feel that it's not something that we should even submit because of something wasn't quite right. And there have been instances too where if we do make a mistake, we pay back funding. So I just wanted to more or less set your minds at ease, knowing that this is something that we take seriously and that it's something that we've prioritized even before the narrative, but it's something that we'll continue to work with the state, work with the federal government as things come up. That was the extent of my report. Are there any questions from the board?
If the state is going to cut potentially 5%, when will you know if that is the case?
I would imagine, just based on the reporting we've seen, the state agencies have till the end of the month to provide some sort of a plan or a report, so we would know for sure by then. We are in contact with the state agencies, our state agencies, so we'll likely know before that, but we'll know quickly. I guess it's the extent of where we're at.
And then if there is a $2.8 million cut in funding, will you come back to the counties for?
Likely not. We would look internally at just our operational budget. If there's any kind of low impact cuts, we would certainly look at those first. We also do kind of as a side entity, we have our APACE Foundation, which is the APACE Foundation owns a lot of the properties we have, but we fundraise from that, and that could provide some relief as well. I will say we're situated much better than other providers are, so we have a little bit more kind of to weather those storms at our disposal than other providers do. We've actually, as part of those, kind of the financial position of other providers have gone under over this past year, just because of kind of the pressures from both the rates and, we're kind of, with Medicaid, we're just kind of always in arrears. It's always the type of thing where rates, when they were set years ago, and so it never quite catches up to inflation. So we're always a little bit behind with that. But we would do everything in our power to just maintain services, to maintain the life for those that we support. So it's not something we don't see that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment. First and foremost, I know that we've had our share of sort of interactions in the past. I do appreciate what PACE does. I was an in-home respite caregiver myself for 4 years, so I get it. I love what you guys do, but you've highlighted every county but Seward County, even counties that are not in your service area, and some multiple times. So feeling a little like the stepchild, just pointing that out.
So there's a story to that. When we developed this, I said we need to have every county. Like let's make sure we have every county. And it was well after the fact that someone came to me and was like, "Hey, Seward's not in here." But,
I will say Seward is represented on the front cover.
I did see that. I did
Yes.
see that, but there was no story.
I
Right.
will point out that the last year's version of this, there was 2 stories from Seward.
Okay.
individuals. So,
I'll give you that. Okay. All right.
but yes, that was completely not. That was
You're not trying to make us feel like a stepchild?
no, that a complete oversight. So
Okay.
apologies for that.
Thank you, Matt. All right. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Matt, you said you have 95% of your funding. Is that state Medicaid or is that on the federal level?
So
Or a
Medicaid
mixture?
Medicaid is a combination. It's a partnership. So it's like 54% of the funding is Medicaid is federal, and then the remaining percentage is state. So and that amount always changes depending on the economy of the state. Our work, so we're in a sliver of Medicaid that is slightly different than when you hear about Medicaid expansion. That's Medicaid, the health insurance program. Ours is different, so it's basically funding for need, funding for services. So it's one of the unique slivers of Medicaid there.
You don't get brought into that other broad
No,
portion of the state Medicaid then.
correct. Yep.
Kind of sit outside of that.
Yep.
Because
Same
I
program.
was looking at that going, wait a minute, if Medicaid is getting sliced, you guys are going to get sliced as well.
Well,
But if it
yes,
sits outside of it, then you have
it's-
a better shot.
it's still Medicaid. So, and all of whether it was the federal government bill to cut $1 trillion in 10 years, you see a lot in those things saying that individuals with disabilities are excluded. But we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see what that actually means. So, yeah, it's a pretty important time for us to advocate right now, just because of all that's happening.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead, Patrick.
Morning, Patrick Rifle, Regional Administrator of Patient Type Systems Approach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's not paying attention.
Well, I want to echo Matt's comments. Commissioner Zabraki for sitting on our governance board at Patient Type Systems. Appreciate it very much. We can count on the Commissioner and Matt taking on some extra burden of sitting on our executive committee. So thank you for that very much. I would like to begin by reminding everyone that Regions by Systems was established out of statute, and that statute is the Breast Revised Statute 71-808 1974. And our mission really is to support the wellness and recovery of people in Southeast Nebraska through the ongoing development and coordination of behavioral health system care. We envision that people experiencing affected by or at risk of mental health or substance use challenges receive care and enhance personal well-being. Going through your packet here, the first handout really is a depiction of the service area. And you can see York County on there. Seward County is about 4% of the entire population. So it's about 9,308 square miles is what we cover, and that's about 483,000 people walking around those square miles. we added on the poverty rate, so you can kind of compare yourselves to some of the other counties. Moving forward through the packet here, you'll see this document right here. This is just listing all the commissioners that sit on our governance board, as well as the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee, which we have some new members if the board approves them, or the board just did approve them, I think, in June. And then some of the senators. So those commissioners and those Behavioral Health Advisory Committees, both those are required by statute to help shape the system of the behavioral health system of care. The other components, or this long sheet right here is the system of care. So when I talk about the system of care, what? Oh, you're not hearing me? I can sit down.
Just want to make sure that we're catching everything
Okay,
you say.
why don't I sit down? That might be better. How about that? Thank you, Daryl. So when I talk about the system of care, there are services that we outline in regards to the system of care, and that's on this sheet right here. The first column is the entire services that we subcontract with. There are approximately 13 providers that we contract with. There are additional providers that we contract with that are not part of our network for special plans for individuals that don't fit into the continuum of care. Across the top, you'll see all the different counties and the utilization. So if we go to the back, you'll see for Seward, there's approximately 217 encounters or individuals that access services over the course of this fiscal year. And there are additional funds that we contract with Housing, HUD, the federal government, and it looks like there's 5 individuals that are receiving some of the HUD funding. The HUD funding requires us to match the funds that we get, so we use some of the county dollars for that, in addition to some of the other coordination efforts that we do. The other coordination components that we offer are if behavioral health disasters, so like the wildfires that occurred in western Nebraska, Regions 1 and Regions 2 activated their behavioral health disaster response to support individuals who might be having crises. So that is available. We have a close working relationship with your emergency director or manager here in Seward County, and they would activate us, and we practice that once a year, even if there is not an emergency. The other coordination components are the emergency system, so working with law enforcement officers. We recently, June 30th and July 1st, had a sequential intercept mapping summit in Lincoln at Innovation Campus. There was over 110 individuals that participated in that. System partners, Chief Justice Funk was there, probation was there, 4 senators were there, Senator Quick, Senator Bozen, can't remember the other 2. Judges, we had a couple judges that participated in that. Jails were there, and it was really focused on access to the Lincoln Regional Center, competency evaluation and restoration, and mental health board commitment. So it was a good 2 days of planning, and we'll have a report that will go to the board and go to all the stakeholders to help prioritize what we should focus on. I'm hopeful that we can have some potential legislation this coming year that came out of the summit. The other kind of coordination components are consumer coordination, housing coordination. So we house over 300-400 individuals throughout the service area that have severe mental health and substance use conditions, also meet 0 or very low income financial eligibility. The network coordination, so as part of those 13 providers, we audit them once a year. So we contract with them, we audit them, we implement new projects. One of the new projects that is almost finally to fruition is the Square One project. So that's for individuals or families from your county. It's a place to go where we've aligned our crisis system where somewhere to call, 988. We have crisis lines here also. Someone to respond. We have crisis response teams, such as the TASK, Centerpoint, and Lutheran Family Services, and then somewhere to go. And that'll be at 220 South 17th Street in Lincoln. It'll be open 24/7, 365. So any family in your county can go there if their child or youth is having mental health distress or challenges. They can have a crisis psychotherapy assessment, they can have case management, and then the final service that we're bringing up is mental health respite. So we just need to, they need to do the alarm system, do some blinds on the windows, some tinting, change a lock for law enforcement officers to have a separate entrance if law enforcement officers bring individuals. I'm hopeful that sometime in August that we'll get the green light on that. The other coordination components are prevention, so identifying what are the issues in your county and try to prevent those from occurring. Youth coordination, the Stepping Up initiative, and then the opioid settlement funds. Moving forward into the next handout in your packet is the county match document. So I just want to go over this briefly. So you find on the left are all the counties that match. And the population that we use is from 2020. Column A is fiscal year 25-26, and that's the county match that we requested from Seward, was approximately 40,000. You can see that stays flat for fiscal year FY26-27. That's the year we just kind of crossed the threshold July 1st into. So no increase. The county board did, or the Region 5 Systems Board did approve the statutory required match. And I know that you guys did not approve the additional request, but I understand that it's still being considered potentially for approval. Are there any questions I can answer about the match? I have, what's that?
I have a question. It's my understanding, maybe I wasn't last year.
What's
I
that?
don't remember when. In one of the years in the past, maybe
Yeah.
last year or the year before, there was a county within Region 5 that stated that they would not provide a match unless all of the counties provided a match. And
Yes.
is that the case this year? And they utilize the majority of
I
the
haven't heard
services?
that.
I just want to make sure.
No,
Okay.
that is not the case this year.
Thank you.
I have decreased the county match by 28% since I've been in this role, and we're at the margins where we need to be.
I realized that that was not a you thing, Patrick. I
Yes,
knew it was
yes.
a part of the board, so it was just
Yeah.
kind of a question for you and Daryl.
Yes, yep. I appreciate the question, Commissioner Onick, and that was not when we did approve it. That question did come up by Imha County Commissioner Michael Weiss, and it was stated in the open meetings that no, that was not a requirement. So if there are any other questions about that, I am happy, available and happy to answer any of those, and just appreciate the support from Seward County. Moving forward in the packet is the county return on investment. Looks like this in your packet. So I just like to go through this. You'll notice I'm working in 3 different fiscal years here. So this is fiscal year FY25. I talked about the match in FY26, and I also talked the request for the match in FY27. But so that's why the numbers are, this would be higher than what FY26 is if you compared them. So it was, your match was 44,000 on fiscal year 25, and the funds that were utilized by your constituents in your county were approximately 549,000. Research tells us that for every dollar that is invested in behavioral health, your return and what you can expect for people who move forward in the recovery process, which is, you know, if I'm using substances, or if I have a severe mental health condition and I get back into work, or I no longer am, you know, committing crimes from your county attorney or law enforcement officers, it's a 1 to 3. So the anticipated future savings for your county was about 1.6 million by your contribution of the county match of 44,000. The other things I wanted to just quickly touch on was LB 722. Senator Quick put forth a bill for the regions to do a cleanup bill from the prior year, so we can use the documentary stamp tax funds. That's when the parcel changes and that tax comes in. I know you all are very familiar with that, but there's a small percentage that goes to the behavioral health cash care fund, and we can use some of those for housing for individuals, not just for severe mental health, but also for substance use. And if a tenant does extensive damage, we can also use those to try to preserve that relationship with that landlord. So I appreciated that. LB 901, Senator Spivey submitted legislation in regards to taxing gaming devices, and those gaming devices, it's like a loophole. I'm not exactly clear on it, but maybe gas stations or restaurants. And so about 3.75% of
the funds that the revenue that they generate will go into the behavioral health cash care fund. And I think it is surrounding housing too, which I think will be a positive thing for our community. And we did apply for a SAMHSA grant, assisted outpatient treatment. It's a 5-year grant, $750,000 per year. It will help us work with the county mental health board. So we work board as an individual to a community-based provider to try to oversee so that individual doesn't get lost, and to try to work with the board. Successful. That is our goal with that if we're awarded. We'll know in August if we get awarded. I have had a few correspondence with them, so I'm hoping that's a positive that they're interested in funding us. I think that's the main things I wanted to talk about. Our annual report's in there. I'm not going to go over that in detail. Are there any other questions? I'm available and welcome any questions that I can try to answer.
Anybody? Okay,
I don't have any
thank you both for
questions.
coming.
Thank you.
Thank you both for the services that you provide within Seward County.
See you in September.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to our next agenda item, which is Seward County sign-on bonus and referral bonus policy. All right, so there's been some discussion regarding the sign-on bonuses prior to the wage adjustment. It was a recruiting tool that I think both roads department and jail utilized to help with those hard to fill positions. So I think the board would just like to have a conversation about if that's something, and we also changed it too, so that you didn't have to come here every single time and ask. So I think we probably need to have a question or a discussion about the policy, if it's something we want to keep, if the way that it's set up currently still makes sense. So I will open it up.
I'm
We're-
in favor of dissolving the policy myself, but then everybody on this board knows where I stand on the hiring bonus issue. So I'm not going to burn any more calories with it.
Where are you at as far as with the increased wages? Are you getting applicants? Have you filled any positions?
Yeah, so we have 5 openings as of 2 weeks ago. The one of those positions was filled July 6th. That position had been open since March. So we still have some work to do. So we do have another applicant that's in the hiring process right now. So he's kind of in the beginning stages of it. Can I explain the
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
He is in the beginning stages of being going through the hiring process. And I've said before, it could take a few months to get anyone after we advertise. It could take potentially another 2 to 4 weeks to get the psych and then UA, and then of course the 8-week of FTO. So it's already a very long process to get someone as an officer. I can't say for certain if it's the raise of, the pay raise that's been it's made a difference, or if it's the hiring bonus. I think it's a little too premature to make that decision. The job's been posted with the new pay wage for about 4 weeks. We've had 4 applicants. So with that, still a little concerning. I think it's just too premature to say which one is really working. Again, we do have for sure 3 openings after these 2, and it could take some time for them to be filled.
So a couple of things though. I stopped in and I talked to Roxy last week. And so I believe have the positions been taken down from Indeed, which was your primary.
Yes, only because when Sarah and I talked, with her limited staff, she can only train a certain number of individuals at one time.
So that's also something that needs to be taken into consideration. So the the position itself has been removed, but also for that reason also because they can only train so many individuals at a time, which makes sense, right? I mean, you only have so many people to be able to train new hires. But also, can you explain another reason why it was taken down from Indeed to kind of move it forward, push it forward, kind of to the top?
Oh, yeah. So I've started sponsoring these positions on Indeed for many reasons, but it, allows it to be pulled in different algorithms for people with certain resumes, brings it to the top, that type of thing. And then with the new wage as well, trying to highlight that more. So
So it's not these positions that are currently available are not posted on Indeed.
we just recently took it down, yes.
Mhm.
But yeah, but it was because they need time to, we just hired 2 new individuals, potentially the third, and so they just need that time to train with what Sarah mentioned, the weeks that it takes for FTO and all of that.
So I mean, it's difficult because how do you know, right? I mean, I'm assuming, only one can assume because was such a lack of applicants prior to that increasing the wage helped. I mean, the sign-on bonus has been there. So, I mean, I think that we could say that that may have helped draw some applicants, some qualified applicants. Um, but how do you really know? And if the listing for the job position is not currently up, how do you determine if it's one or the other? So I go back and forth on this. Missy and I have had several conversations. I've had several conversations with Roxanne about it. With the hiring bonuses, the way that they are staggered and they are paid out, it affects not one, but multiple budget years. So even with the hiring bonuses that have currently been given, they are going to be paid out in this year's budget for some of them and any into the next fiscal year that have recently been given.
I guess for me, I just go back and forth. The salaries have already been taken into consideration when the budget's being done. So the money's already in that pot, we're
This year.
yes, for this year.
But to her point,
Right.
and this is sort of where I go back and forth and I question this as well. Let's say, dream world here, okay? Let's say you get all of your positions filled and we have, you're fully staffed and you've given all of these hiring bonuses. You're going to now have to budget additional dollars specifically for hiring bonuses for the next year. In the past, because these positions in the county have been constantly vacant, it's kind of worked out where
Right.
it's just it's each year there's a vacancy and it sort of makes sense. So I think for me it makes sense in the year that it exists, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
then when it's a carryover to the next year, then that's like again that's an additional expense. And I've heard a lot of this lately, and this is not directed at you. I just want to be clear here, not at all directed at you. But when I hear things like it's only a penny or it's only $100 or it's only $50, imagine that times like thousands of $50, thousands of pennies, thousands of added expenses, or it's only or it's only or it's only those things start to add up, and that's where we run into challenges. So for me it's not it's the multi-year thing that's holding me up, because then it's like, okay, we got to factor that in for the next year. So again, I think I'm probably right where you are, just in between.
Well, and the challenge that I see too is it's yes, primarily it has been used for corrections and the Rose Department. However, the county attorney's office has also used it in the past.
I think to take off the table right now would really hurt the jail. Considering we are 4 positions down. So to not have anything as a plan B to fall back on, I mean, we're hoping that the pay increase works, but I think with time we'll really know. And so the plan would be for it to get posted again, and then we're not going to have the hiring bonus to follow the policy for 30 days, and then we're going to see. So if it's something we can come back and see in a few months and how we're doing with getting applicants, qualified applicants, it's something that can be looked at, and I just think it's too premature to determine what is working.
I am not in favor of waiting, because we are talking about budget right now. Unfortunately, it's not, it has nothing to do with other than the fact that we're talking about the budget today. My question for you is there a way to modify the policy in some way where it would only impact the fiscal year? You know what I mean? That would be my question. My challenge is just that multi-year effect.
Well, we already have a few individuals that are receiving the 5,000.
yeah, obviously we couldn't do anything about that.
So,
That's not my intention.
yeah. So that one, there's about 4 that will receive 2,500 in 2028.
If we were to keep this in place though, so what I'm saying is we would have multi-year potentially for, you have 3, say the Rose Department were to use this too, they would have multiple, not Rose Department, it could be the county attorney's office, it could be any department. Then we're having to manage that over multiple years. So I'm talking about trying to keep things within the same budget. To Sarah's point, I mean, the funding for the salary is already there in that budget year. So that's not really my hold up, it's the future years. So is there a way to modify it for the budget year?
I
know
don't
we have,
know. I feel
payouts
like
and
that
timelines and
depending on when the hiring bonus begins for that individual as well, that gets kind of tricky.
so I'm asking the question.
Couldn't you use something like a sinking fund that is primarily just for hiring bonuses? That way it would overlap the next year because you would have the money there.
The challenge with that is then you're gonna have 15 other at the end of the year
I-
instead of
I
rolling.
got it. I
That's a
got it.
good idea in theory. If there was, again, maybe that's part of the policy that like, but
It-
If something like that, I don't disagree with your proposal.
yeah,
I think it would just need to be tracked so that
Yes.
appropriate amount of funds, what is left in
You'd
a
have to have
budget,
a limit.
only the funds that are needed for that next fiscal year,
Mm.
specifically for sign-on bonuses, goes into that. Now, I'm not saying that other things, again, not picking on your department, not saying that there aren't funds that are needed to go into sinking funds for other things as well. I'm just saying that there has to be a tracking system so that it is known that those funds are for carryover
Mhm.
for the sign-on bonus.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, and then you can budget for it. Whether you hit it or not, we won't know till next year anyway.
what do you mean you would budget for it?
You'd put X amount of dollars in the sinking fund.
You mean
You're
at the
s-
end of the year?
You're setting aside.
Yeah, you're setting aside so much from your
Right.
salary or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, okay, we're all on the same page. Yeah.
So with the sinking fund, is it for equipment only or can that be used for other things?
The sinking fund can be used for anything.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a savings account.
Or
I guess I was under the
Primarily-
impression that
Could
it
be a
was only
special
for
fund.
equipment.
But
Historically,
primarily
it's been
used
equipment.
for
Yes.
Right.
equipment.
Okay. But it can be used for other things. Okay.
Yes, but to your point, maybe it is a separate fund
right.
that it could be used by really anyone specifically for that. Obviously, we would know like jail has this much, but it would be one fund
Mhm.
used specifically for hiring bonuses.
Special hiring fund.
Well, I think you have to be careful on what fund can be added
Yes.
to a budget line.
Mhm.
I mean, to me, it would make the most sense and ease, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandy, to actually place it in the sinking funds. So you're not
Okay.
creating a special hiring fund because it
That's a
gets
whole
very
other
tricky
budget.
It would
with
be easier to track.
auditors. It would be, but it is also going to be the responsibility of the department head to ensure that their numbers are accurate for whatever they're putting in, and there has
I think
What?
that's what we're saying. Like, okay, maybe there's a process or maybe there's a way, maybe there's a form or something. Barb is super great at forms and Excel spreadsheets. Sorry to throw you under the bus like that, Barb. But maybe she could help us draft something where it's like, okay, we're putting this much in. Or maybe there is a fund already there, like a sinking fund already there that could be used specifically just for this. We could look at those. But that way, then it's not being paid out of the general budget, right? It's being paid out of sinking fund the next year.
Payroll would need to know.
Yes.
Because we need to code it differently
Yes.
every time.
So that whole process probably needs to be figured out.
And I am going away with the referral bonus because that comes out of my budget and there's just lack of use in
Mhm.
general, which is separate from the hiring bonus, which is used frequently. But yeah, I was going to talk about that at my budget hearing, but yeah,
Okay.
that's on there too.
Just to refresh my memory here, when we did this conversation recently, we did away with the tiers, did we not?
And we just left it up to the department. And so instead of them having to come and ask us every time, it was like, well, it's already budgeted and within their budget, like Sarah was saying. It doesn't factor in the monthly year.
Well, we did away with the tiers, so you're allowing the hiring manager, in a sense, to set the rate.
Yep.
Whether it's the tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3.
Oh, no, we did. We just went with the middle one.
35.
35.
Tier
So
two.
in
That's
one
Tier two.
There's one
Yeah.
tier.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
still don't like hiring bonuses, and you all know why.
We do.
So I guess walk me through if we have a new hire that is getting the hiring bonus and we have it for the budget for this year, would we just move an X amount of that salary into the
Sinking fund for the next
sinking
year.
fund?
Right.
Okay. So it's not really coming out of the sinking fund, it's just kind of, it's
You're
just
just
gonna be
transferring.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So like
So
at the
then
end
it
of the year,
It's already,
covers-
so it's always gonna be there for the next time.
Yes, so
Okay.
then it covers that next
Yes.
budget cycle. So
Mhm.
then those funds basically will be transferred into
Right.
general funds to pay out
Okay.
that.
Instead of money going back to the general, of those unused
well,
dollars.
that's yes, in a way, yes, and then they would be paid out the next year anyways. But it's kind of the
So the
same
hiring
thing.
bonus would still be in play.
Yes.
Okay.
The hiring bonus would still be in play. We would just need to make sure that it's within the same budget because if you have a vacancy, it has to be vacant for at least 30 days, right? And then so it's like, okay, I think you would still, even at the 3,500, you would still have that within your budget. Just at the end, you're transferring the specific amount, which remind me when they're paid out.
90 days, 6 months, 1 year.
And then you're-
So it's probably that 1 year that we would have to, or I don't know, it could really be
Depends.
any of them,
Yeah.
to be honest. But yeah, so I think we would just need to calculate what those are,
And we
and that's
still
what you
have-
transfer in.
2-year people from the previous.
So I think we would probably need to modify the policy to just state that, and maybe there's a form or something that Barb could help us with, as far as
Is
just
that
making
something
it
where that
easy.
can just be an internal thing? Where it doesn't, we don't need to go back and edit the policy again, where it can just
I think
be
we need to
internal
edit the policy to make sure that we're doing this correctly.
Or could you take those and just have them on the run out to where your sinking fund, you know that you have X amount of people that are gonna be using that 2 years in the next 2 fiscal years. And then once that's done, you know it's done. Does that make sense?
I think you would
I'm
continue to have it.
well, no, I think I'm tracking what you're saying because at the policy as it stands right now is a 1-year policy, where previously, because of some of the sign-on bonuses, it was carrying over into 2 years. But as those run out, then it doesn't apply
Right.
essentially. So to add it in, and I see where you're coming from, so that it's stated, but couldn't we, I think what Roxy is saying, couldn't we have something internal for those who are on that 2-year payout as opposed to having it within the actual policy itself? Because the
Yeah.
policy moving forward should be as to what
Yeah.
we envision that policy to look like, which will not include 2 years of
Okay.
a payout.
I see what you're saying. I think an internal policy is fine just as long as we're tracking that and we're making sure that we're making those transfers at the end of the year or before the end of the year.
Right.
Before.
And then also department heads have to make sure that they have those funds available within their budget. Like a sign-on bonus cannot be issued if there are not funds available within their budget. So let's say the 30 and the 60-day hit within this fiscal year, but you're short on funds at that 60-day, that sign-on bonus can't be given if you don't have the funds.
Well, you should have,
I
in
think
a
you would.
sinking fund, you should have those funds though.
But the
money to the sinking fund.
The only thing that I
Right.
could see that, the only way I could see that being a challenge is like, let's say she hires somebody on June 30th
Yeah.
and she's capped out on her budget,
Right.
which again, going back to her original point, that shouldn't be the case because she will already, that position would have been vacant anyways. So
Yeah. That's,
Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. Okay. Do we agree then? We can leave it as it is now, meaning like still offered by the department head based on the parameters that are in the policy, but we would just need to make sure that we're making that transfer so that's all within the same budget year. Does that make that work for everyone?
Mhm.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys.
And we are going to get rid of the referral bonus policy. I mean, Roxy's already going to make that recommendation at her budget hearing because it's unused, because she's going to need to make that adjustment in her budget.
Yeah, I've already budgeted that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our untimed items, number 9, which is authorizing the chair to sign service subscription agreement with IDEMA for live scan service. Let's see. Can I
Stay for that?
mean, you could. You're here.
Okay. So,
Yeah, the IDEMIA contract, they had to change the date on there. They did extend it to June, the end of June. When I submitted the contract, it still had the original contract date on there, so now it's extended to October. Once they get that, we can start with the process of replacing the equipment that we have in.
This was the same thing that you approved. It's been quite a while.
Yeah,
now.
it's been
And there
a
was
few
not
weeks.
a
Yeah.
spot on it to sign. So she's been working with them and with Barb this whole time.
Yeah.
To get this document.
A signature page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same
So,
thing.
Yeah, is this the one that they sent the form on?
This-
Yes.
The foreign.
They did. We
officer?
have that.
That's
Yes.
the one. Did you send that
Yes,
to me?
that's the one they sent originally, and then they had to go back and change something.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that attached to it?
It is not.
Okay.
I should send it to you, but I can forward it over
We
there.
forward it and just
Yeah.
they can just attach it
Okay.
to that.
Yes.
okay. So then we need a motion to sign the service agreement.
move to authorize the chair to sign service subscription agreement with IDEMIA for live scan service.
Second.
McCarrick,
Yes.
Hine,
Yes.
Zabraki,
Yes.
Yes. That is 4-0 against, authorizing the chair to sign the service subscription agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our last item is item number 10. That's the agenda for July 21st, 2026.
No,
That's number 8.
Sorry, we did set the, I was ignoring that. Item number, I wasn't. Item number 8 is setting a date and time for the Stewart County Joint Public Hearing and considering the Nebraska State print shop for printing of the postcard. So 2 separate things. First one is the date.
So it has to be between September 14th and September 24th. Budgets have to be submitted September 30th. Historically, you have done it the night before the meeting, before the deadline. So I think if you look at the calendar, I think September 21st, then you'll have a meeting on September 22nd. Is that right?
Yep.
And that gives you a week before we have to submit the final budget. So if you need to change anything, we would still have time. And that's how you've kind of always done it in the past, was the night before your meeting when you finalize the budget. So looking at the calendar between the 14th and the 24th, I think that would make it the 21st. And it has to be after 6 p.m.
Didn't we do 6:30 last year?
I believe so.
I think we've done 6:30, we've done 7. Some counties do like 6:01, 6:05, but
Just do 6:30.
Yeah,
That's what we did last year.
Don't you usually ask the
The Ag Society to use the
Harvest Hall?
yeah Harvest Hall meeting room, conference room.
So assuming that we can use that and that it's available, we would do it the 21st at 6:30 at Harvest Hall or the fairgrounds at some place. If that's not available, we could go back to the Civic Center too.
So we need to check on the hard.
Reagan
I did
typically
that.
does that for us.
September 21st at 6:30.
Okay, so that's the first part, and then do we want to talk about the state print shop?
So I got an email from Candace at NACO that said that NACO is partnering with the State Print Shop in Pitney Bowes this year for printing and mailing of the joint public hearing postcards. If you want NACO to facilitate the printing and mailing, which I would strongly encourage that, through the State Print Shop in September, we have to let her know by July 31st. They anticipate, for budgeting purposes, that the estimated cost per postcard will be 62 cents. So we'll figure that
Oh
out.
my gosh.
Yeah, a lot.
That is
Well, you know, they're big. And then also there's going to be a refresher webinar, reviewing new legislation, preparing the pink postcards, and conducting the hearing on July 24th at 2 p.m. And there's a link, a Zoom link I can send to you if you want to participate in that. Just to,
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotten much better than it was the first couple of years.
So another unfunded
It's,
mandate.
it is definitely an unfunded mandate.
I'm curious what the cost has gone up. Like 67 cents. That seems like a pretty. I don't know what it was
I
last year.
could
I feel like
look
it was like
back and see, because we can only bill out not very many of them.
I don't know.
So
Oh, it's 67?
62.
Oh, I
cents.
just
So
Two,
the
62.
estimated cost. So I sent an email to Milford and Seward and to Milford, Seward, and Centennial schools, letting them know that you were going to discuss this today. And I would let them know once it has been set. Obviously, it's too early for anybody to know if they definitely will need to participate or not. Centennial doesn't sound like they will need to participate, but I don't know yet about the others. So I think that they all looked at their calendars and thought that that date would probably work for them. So once we know, I can let them know, and I can send you guys this link if you want to do the Zoom for the refresher.
Okay.
Everybody get that?
So then we just need a motion for both of those things.
I will move that we set the date and time for the Seward County joint public hearing and consider the Nebraska State Print Shop for the postcards. The meeting should occur on September 21st, 2026 at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll. Rocky,
Yes.
Tyne,
Yes.
Herrick,
Yes.
Amen. Yes. That is 4-0 opposed to setting the date and time for Seward County joint public hearing and utilizing the Nebraska Print Shop.
All right, now we'll go to item number 10, which is our agenda for July 21st.
I'm setting a reminder to email you the link. Okay. So next week we have executive session, jail inspection, and then Blue Valley Community Actions annual report and request for funding at 9:30. Did you want to add sheriff inventory?
Go ahead and put it on there and I'll let you know if I get it to where we can do it.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn the July 14, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting at 10:28 a.m.
Second.
Please call roll.
Rocky,
Yes.
Tyne,
Yes.
Herrick,
Yes.
Amen.
Yes, that's 4-0 opposed to adjourning the meeting.